Hello, good morning. Or, well, in my case, morning. I don't know what time is it, Serge, at your place? Can you hear me, Serge?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Hello, what time is it where you are?
This time it's 8 p.m.
Oh, great. Well, here it's 10 a.m., so we'll be working a lot of time. So, first of all, congratulations for winning the lottery and well, for participating in the Thought for Food Challenge. I think
Yes,
that's an awesome opportunity that you're giving your project to succeed and to get to a global audience. So congratulations on that side. I had
yeah,
the opportunity to see your project and the things that you sent as a pitch deck, and well, I'm impressed. I see a lot of work over there, so congratulations on that side as well. And
thank
well,
you.
the idea with this pitch lottery call is to help you to try to answer any questions that you may have, give you some tricks, some suggestions
Mm.
on your pitch deck. And but first of all, I would love to know a little bit more about you and how well, um, who are you and why you started this project.
Okay, I'm Serge Mwakamkenge and I'm from Congo. And actually, I was working on this project since 3 years ago, and I found that there is an opportunity that to help people in getting the food in our place. As you can see, if you want to, if you do a little research on Google, you will realize that getting food in DRC is not really easy. So many people used to go in the neighborhood in order to get the food and then come here to sell it to local consumers. So by my side, I realized that that is not good, and it's a kind of shame. Such a big country like DRC, people are going from far to get the food. So we decided, me and my team, we decided to work uh, on this project in order to help people to get their food easily without moving. So that's why we decided to work on this project. And as I wanted to introduce myself, I was graduated since 1 years ago, and I studied the management at International Leadership University of Burundi. I think that's all about me.
That's great. And well, in your pitch deck and your application form, you mentioned that you have a 3-person team. So
Yes.
who are them and how did you met them?
Yeah, those are my friends and colleagues because we studied together there in Burundi. Unfortunately, they won't they won't participate in this session because they are in my country we are French speakers, and for them they thought that it's not that will not be able for them to express themselves as they wanted. So they told me that they won't be available to participate in this session. But as I said, we have Morgan Bakenga and Grace Chibambo.
Okay, well, that's great. The idea will be that you are able to share with them what you learn and the outcomes and suggestions that you might get. So it
Yeah.
shouldn't be a problem. Of course, well, sometimes happens that will be like a good exercise on communication on your team. So you will have
Yeah.
to practice that, and that will be essential for things. And
Yes.
at the end of the day, that's the reason why we when we start a company, that's
Mm.
why we had a team, right? Just to get the help and to complement each other and to fulfill the things that maybe some members. So that's part of the fun of having a team in entrepreneurship. And
Yeah.
did you, well, the project that you have and the company that you have, that's regarding farina, the maize farina,
Yeah.
I thought it was super interesting. I'm from Mexico, so maize and corn, it's our deal here. And
I know.
how did you came to that idea? So why maize farina?
And I took that project because the maize farina is the basic of the nutrition in my country. So people used to buy the maize farina at, you may see in the most families, they eat one per day, the maize farina. So that's why I thought that was a good opportunity for me to work on it and try to bring a kind of improvement in that sector.
Okay, okay, that's awesome, and I can see a need over there, and also a good opportunity for having a good market over there.
Yeah.
Just to understand, how do people cook the farina? So they make like pottage, or how? What do you do with the farina? Because I'm probably not familiar. Probably we have something similar here, but I don't know, how do you prepare it?
We prepare it in an easier way. For instance, they boil the water and put it in the water, and after they will get a kind of ugali. I don't know if you have heard about ugali.
No, I don't think I have.
Uh, the common used way of farina in my country, we use it with ugali, and some people use it as the bread to prepare the bread. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's a starchy, like carbohydrate, sugar source for energy for the population. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that seems similar to what we do. Well, we cook it as tortillas, but again, it's like the base of the eating here in Mexico. So it's super
Mm.
interesting how we can relate to that. So that's awesome. Well, if you want, we can move straight to the pitch deck that you shared. I have
Yeah.
some notes. I will
Yeah.
I will share the screen. You let me know if I can share the screen. So are you seeing your pitch deck?
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. So well, the first thing that says pitch. So I will move like in each slide and make you some comments. Do you have any notebook or anything to write my comments, or do you need any time to get something?
Can you please give me a second
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
get a pen? Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah. Here I am.
Okay, that's great. So,
Mm.
well, first of all, when did you did this pitch deck?
Please.
When did you did the pitch deck?
Uh, it was when I was reading about how to design the pitch on Thought for Food.
Oh,
Yeah. But the pitch was designed before, but it was in French.
okay.
So I tried to adjust something and in order to get this pitch in English.
Yeah, and that make it a lot easier because I don't speak French. So,
Uh,
and what was your goal when you were making the pitch deck? So, who did you had on mind that might be seeing your pitch deck, or why did you make a pitch deck?
I made this pitch in order to attract investors who are available to invest in our startup. And also I made it because I want to change the way people used to get the product. So I decided to work on it in expectation that we'll get potential founders who will trust us and invest their money in our project.
Okay, great. Well, I might be able to help you. That's actually my day job, is to work with investors and to search projects to invest on. So I hope my experience can help you in some way. Well, let's go slide by slide. I guess it will be the most effective way to do it. First of all, the cover of your pitch deck. In general, your pitch deck have a lot of information, and that's a good thing. But probably it have too much information. It's more, I would say, like a brochure kind of thing. And it's good that you have this information. But probably if you're searching to see an investor, you have a very limited amount of time with an investor. Even if you send the pitch deck by email, probably they won't be wanting to devote, I don't know, 1 hour or 2 hours to read a full pitch deck. So my first recommendation or tip would be to keep it shorter, probably not more than 10 slides. And the thing that you have, because right now it's 49, so it's very, very long. It's good that you have that information, and probably for like a second call, that will make more sense. So first you present a pitch deck that makes the investor interested with just 10 slides. And then if they are interested, you will have another meeting or another session for you to present. And then when you can present your full information that you have right now. The good thing that you have many information here, is that it's always easier to remove things instead of building things, right? So you can use the information that you have and just edit something, and you will have a great pitch deck, okay? So at the beginning, since in this idea that an investor will only have a certain amount of time, normally they will devote, I don't know, like 5 seconds to see if they are interested. They will only see the cover and probably the second page of your pitch deck. That's when they decide if they are interested. And if they are, probably they will devote 20 minutes to read for your pitch deck. If not, they will remove it. So the first slide and the second slides are the most important ones, because you have to catch the attention of an investor, right? So at the beginning, the cover page, instead of saying just pitch, I will invite you to put the name of your company, put your contact information. It's always important. You put it in one of the slides. I cannot remember the name and the number. I have here the list. But it's important for you to put it since the beginning, because normally, let's say that you're presenting, or that they didn't have enough time to see the full pitch deck or something for search for your email. It's important that they have it since the beginning. So if they just see your name and it's like, okay, I'm interested, I will give them a call, or I will shoot them an email. That's important, so that you have that. Okay, so instead of just saying pitch, put the name of your company, probably your name, and your contact information. That will be the very first thing. I like the thing that you mentioned about audience. So it's important for you to know who's your audience and to whom are you directing the pitch deck. I don't think it's needed that you put that in your pitch deck. So it's important for you to know it, but the investor doesn't need to know that it's directed to the investor. If the pitch deck got to the investor, probably he's the audience. So I would remove that slide. Of course, keep it for you, but it's not necessary that you share it. Design, practice, and expectations. That it's like the first slides. I will keep it in your inside document, not necessarily share them. And at this point, it's important. I'm in slide number 5, in the number 4, in expectations. It's important that you know what you're expecting. And it's also important for you to let the other people know what you're expecting, because sometimes probably you're wanting some help, or sometimes you want some investment, or sometimes you might have, I don't know, you want to attract some employee or something like that. So I think it's important to mention the expectations. In this case, I don't know. I understand that your pitch was planned to get some investment. But probably at the beginning, you need to focus more on describing your company more than directly asking for the money. So I will leave this thing about, well, I want to have some investment and the numbers and all that things. I would probably move them to later on in the pitch deck, not since the beginning. It's important that you mention it, but maybe not at the beginning, because it's like, give me money before you explain why they should give you money. So normally you would present your company, say what problem are you solving, and work on that, and later on mention the money part, because if not, it can seem a little bit, I would say, aggressive or interested, as well as the asks. Okay, we are in slide number 7. In slide number 7, that mentioned exit strategy. This slide, I think your content it's okay, but not the title. What you're mentioning here, instead of an exit strategy, it's called a go-to-market strategy. Okay, so the idea that you're planning to deliver and in South Kivu and all the things that you mentioned, that's more a go-to-market strategy. And I think it's good, but an exit strategy is a different thing. It means how are you planning, or what's your plan for the investors to get back their money? Okay, so for example, my exit strategy is that I will grow this company and I will sell it to, I don't know, Nestle or a big company, right? Or my exit strategy is that I will become public and I will sell stocks in Wall Street, something like that, the New York Stock Exchange. Or probably if you are not planning to do either of those things, probably their exit strategy is that, well, my company will grow and I will have enough money, enough profit to buy the investors the shares in my company. So that's the exit strategy, is the exit for the investor.
Oh, I get the point.
Okay, so the content is okay. If you change from exit strategy to go to market, that's okay. If you want to keep the exit strategy, that I think it's important for you to keep, you should change it to how are you planning to give the investors back their money, right? At some point, because that's what an investor wants to do. Instead of, well, unless it's a grant or a government funding or an NGO money or something like that, an investor will want their money back. So how are you planning to give it back? And that's the moment when they exit the company, right? Then we get to slide number 8, that it's, well, actually it says number 7, but it's the problem. Okay, so I would put that like describing the problem that you're trying to solve. That will be my second slide. So the cover that have your company name and your contact information, and then right next to that will be the problem. Okay, so the people understand at the beginning what's the problem that you're trying to solve. I didn't got what is the problem that you're wanting to solve. Okay, because you mentioned different things. You mentioned that the people buy the farina in other places, and you mentioned at some point that some people don't have jobs and things like that. So you have to have the problem in your mind and have to be super clear. What are you solving? Okay, and you might be solving many problems or trying to solve many problems with your project, but it's about what are you trying to solve. in my mind,
Mm.
and just for you to know what I understood on your pitch deck when I finish it, I think
Mm.
you're like trying to solve at least three problems, right? The first
Yeah.
one is that you want to help smallholder farmers.
Yes.
So you mentioned that probably some of your raw material will come from smallholder farmers. So that's one
Yeah.
problem. And actually, what's the problem? The problem is that, I don't know, probably smallholder farmers don't have enough market for their product. Okay, so they don't have enough money. And if you
Yeah.
buy from them, that they will have enough money. So that might be
Mm.
problem number one. Smallholder farmers don't have enough money.
Mm.
The other one that you mentioned is like distribution, that probably at some places in that region, you don't have enough farina available, or people have to travel uh,
Yeah.
too many times, too many miles to get to the source of the farina. So that might be another problem that you might be solving, the problem of distribution or availability of the product. And you also
Yeah.
mentioned, and in my mind, that was the most interesting part. You mentioned quality of the product. You
Yeah.
mentioned that your farina will be much better than the other farinas that are around, the commercial farinas that currently are in the region. So that's a
Yeah.
problem. And it's super important that you have it super clear. What might be the problem for eating, I don't know, bad quality farina? In your mind, what will be the problem?
In quality of farina,
Yeah. What happens if
uh,
you eat low quality farina?
the low quality farina, it means that the stock that people are buying have has been stocked for a long period, and then the product is not really. I mean, the product is not in is not. I mean, the product after being stocked for a long period, it will not taste as a product which is freshly produced by our, our company.
Okay. Okay,
That
and
was
then that might have some troubles. For example, I don't know, don't have enough vitamin content might be one of the issues, that vitamins decay over time. So if the products have been stored for many time, probably they don't have enough vitamins, or I don't know, carbohydrates, protein, the tastes change, something like that. So if that's a problem that you're trying to solve, that in my mind that was like the main problem that you were trying to solve, you have to
yeah.
mention it, right? I don't know, the
Mm.
kids are lacking of vitamins, or depending on what are you planning to do, right? If you're planning to supplement your farina with vitamins, that might be a case that the problem is that the kids are not getting enough vitamins, or even elderly people. If it's that it's not fresh and that changed the taste, probably people are not eating enough because they don't
Mm.
like how it tastes. So you have to think in that terms when you're explaining the problem, and have it
Mm.
super clear what's the problem that you're trying to solve, as well as
Mm.
what's the consequences of that problem. If it's like,
Yeah.
well, it's a problem that they have to walk, well, to get to the place, or spend some gas money to get to the arena
Yeah.
store or something like that. Well, what's the problem with that? Probably that they spend less time with their family, they have less time to work, they have to spend all that money in gas to get to the store or something like that. So
Yeah.
think about the problems that you're trying to solve and put it in simple terms. That will be my suggestion.
Aye.
Then in the next slide, you talk about the team. So at this point, well, I have two comments. First,
Mm.
this is the slide where you get to talk about you, okay? and
Oh.
and why you are the one that will solve this problem, right? So
Mm.
you have enough experience, you're passionate, you know the place, you have partnerships, you are you and your team, and your main
Mm.
team, I will say, if in your team you have two other persons, and they are part of the team, and they have like
Mm.
different skills or something like that, that's where you have to mention it. An investor, like I would say 99.9% of the times, end up investing
Mm.
more in the people than in the project. Because if you have the right people and you don't have the right project or company, you can always change it, right? So
Yeah.
and if you have the perfect project, but you don't have the right people to do it, that will be almost impossible to get. So this is the slide where you have all the chances to speak about your passion, your knowledge, your education, your knowledge on the field. It doesn't mean that you have to have, you know, like all these university diplomas or everything. It's not necessary, but that you know what you're talking about. And keep in your mind, like, how would you answer somebody that asks you, why are you the one that will solve this problem, right? So that's where you get to explain that. And so you can modify that in your slides. And something, even though it's not an information that it's needed to be in this slide, you mentioned that you will be hiring skilled and talented young from 18 to 30 years old. Why did you put an age limit?
Because we want to hire only the youth, because they are the one affected with unemployment.
Okay.
And that's why we decided to hire those youth in order to achieve our goal.
Okay, I will recommend you to, it's okay that you focus on youth, but don't close the door to other people. So there might be some works that are very hard for elderly people to do, but at least in Mexico and other countries that I know, also unemployment in elderly people is high. So there are some people that probably don't have any son or daughter that might help them and support them, so they end up having to work. So that might be also a good impact if you can hire somebody that is 50, 60 years old to do something that might be not very labor intensive, but that they can do, I don't know, packaging or answering phone calls or something like that. You can be making some very good impact. So my recommendation will be to not close the door. You can for sure focus in the youth and hiring young people, but who knows, probably you can hire somebody else and that won't break your mission. So but that information doesn't go in these slides, but just like a suggestion for me. The last thing that we want to do is to discriminate somebody because of their age. So let's say that you have the perfect candidate, but it's like 32 years old. Why would you discriminate them, right? So, well, then I guess you have a good definition of your customer in point number 9. I think it's a good thing, and actually it's kind of fun because at the end, I guess it's in slide number, almost in the last slide, in slide number 48, you mentioned users. So you know the difference between a customer and a user?
Yes, I know. The customer is the one who's paying for the product, and the user is the one who's using the product. For instance, the retailers, suppliers. I think you get the point.
Yeah, exactly. So the most like common example that we always gave between a customer and a user, it's with baby diapers, right? Who are the ones that pay for the diapers? The parents. Who are the ones that use the diapers? The baby, right?
The babies, yeah.
So it's important, and that's the reason why in some brands of diapers, they put, I don't know, like Mickey Mouse and other cartoons in the diaper. It's not like a 3-month-old baby will care at all if it have a Mickey Mouse. They don't even know what's Mickey Mouse, but they put it there for their parents because it looks cute, kind of the idea. So you have to have both sides happy. So I think it's good. You have a good description of your customer, and I will take the user slide that it's 48 right now and put it right next to your customer slide so that there's that connection. and I do think parents are the ones that you have to focus your company in, because they are the ones buying the food. In slide number 11, when you talk about the solution, well, that will depend on the problem that you're solving, right? If the problem that you're solving is that we talk about in the slide number 8, if you're talking about, I don't know, the problem that you're solving is unemployment for the youth, and that's the only problem, well, your solution is to generate a profitable or a sustainable company that will give jobs to many people, right? That's the solution. If it's nutrition, well, to make maize farina that it's more nutritious than the alternatives. If it's the distribution, to generate a distribution and logistic network that will allow to provide for maize farina all over Congo. So that have to be super linked, the problem that you're having and the solution that you're having, right? Yes. And I would move the solution slide right next to the problem slide. So if we took the problem slide, and as I mentioned, you put it in number 2, it's your second slide after you cover, solution would be number 3, right? So you talk about a problem, and then you go to the solution. And then you mention why you're the one that will solve the problem and talk about technology and all that kind of things. But that will be my suggestion. Okay, and in the point number 11, that it's the finances, I understand that at this point you have $500, and you mentioned that you got this by selling potatoes. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I found it super interesting.
During a few periods, I was buying potatoes from local farmers and selling it here in the city. And that was somehow profitable, and that's why I got that amount. I kept it away from anything. It means that in my account, I have only that amount of money.
Okay, and I think it's great that you did it, and actually we will get back to this point at the end of my suggestions, because I think you find a good niche over there. And we will talk further about it. I think it was a good idea, and congratulations on coming with that.
Thank you.
Okay, we are in point 12, that it's strategy. You're still able to see the slides, right, that I'm sharing in my screen?
Yes, I'm seeing it.
Okay, perfect. So I like the idea that you're talking about a strategy. And talking about local farmers and raw materials and all that kind of things. My recommendation it's that whenever you talk about strategy, talk about it like, I don't know, like in football, in soccer, in American football, in basketball, in any sport, they have a strategy, right? And normally when they are trying to communicate the strategy, they don't use too many words. They, I don't know, they draw a map of the places where the players should be and things like that. So I would invite you to try to rework this slide, the strategy slides, and put it as a timeline. So I don't know, currently we're in 2019, and next year is 2020, 2021. And so you put it like a timeline, and you say by 2020, I want to participate. Well, I will participate in the Thought for Food Summit, for example. And 3 months later, I will ask for the machines. And 3 months later, I will probably start selling. And 3 months later, so that you can put it like in a timeline, right? Like something that it's very easy to see. That's important for a strategy. That it's something that people should look and in a couple of seconds understand where are you going. Also, part of the strategy, and especially when you're in the point of developing a strategy for a go-to-market strategy, you will have to add, for example, maps in your strategy. So you mentioned the region of South Kivu, and probably in a couple of years covering all Congo, and who knows, probably by in 10 years you can be covering the whole Africa and Asia and Europe and America and different places. So probably at some point you will have to decide when you're developing a strategy, work with maps. And probably you have like, you know, Google Maps and trace. Probably at the beginning you will only have like 3 stores where you sell your product, or 1 store, and then 3 stores, and then 10. So also in a strategy, it's important that you have this map so you know where will be the next target store and where you might be missing something. So that will be suggestions in that point to add it. Thinking like a sports strategy. Okay, and in channels, I thought it was well, you have very narrow, like, how is pronounced? South Kivu, or how do you say it?
South Kivu.
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 Okay. Kivu. So well, you have that region like very identified, so that's a great thing. There's actually when we talk about channels, we have 5 levels of channels. Okay, so the first level is called conscience. So it's how will you make the people aware that your product exists or your company exists. So you mentioned at this point like TV, radio, things like that. So that might be a good thing. Then you have to open a channel for the people to tell you if they want your product or not. So that's the second channel, and that's called evaluation. So for example, I don't know, if you have a social network, if you have Facebook, probably have a survey in Facebook if they like it. If you think it might be harder, I don't know, probably put like a suggestion box right next to your product and say, hey, if you want more flavors or a different presentation, instead of 1 kilo, you prefer a 5 kilo, something like that. So some way that they can tell you if they liked your product or what do you need to change. That's important. Then the retail and delivery channels. So you have it like very well drafted that it will be through the existing retailers. But if at some point you want to have your own store, or I don't know, you want to start selling online, that will be a different channel and delivery channel. But I guess right now you are correct in using the current stores that there are. And also you have to have an open channel for it. It's called post sale, no, after sales. So if somebody bought your product and they liked it, to have, I don't know, like a phone number that they can call if they liked it, or a phone call that they can call if they didn't like it, or an email or a Facebook account or something. That so it's super important for you, mainly in a very early stage. It's super important that you have all these channels open to hear the people. It's not just a matter of dropping your product in the stores and, I don't know, like pray that they are sold, but you have to open all these channels in order to get some feedback and understand if the people are liking what you're selling. Okay, so it's just a matter of being more specific in your channels. So in the point number 14, that it's supporters, well, you mentioned the government, and I will put them in the partnerships instead of supporters. So you can move that to partnership. You have that slide. So move that to partnership, the government. And actually, when you talk about supporters, it's more about, I don't know, if you have Facebook followers, Instagram followers, YouTube followers. So that's something that it's kind of cheap that you can start doing. And it's important when you want to have some investor, that you mentioned that you're not a crazy person that only you like your product, but that there are some other people that like your product. So it's super cheap to open a Facebook account and start talking about your product, but also talking about, I don't know, nutrition and where the farina comes from and what's the process to make farina. So you start building this like supporter base in online, and that's easier, right? And so when you go to an investor, and probably you haven't sold anything, but when you're to an investor and they say, hey, you have 100,000 people following you on YouTube or Facebook or something like that, that gives more like calm that you're on the right track. Okay, point number 15, it's a social cause, and that have to be linked to the problem that you're solving. Okay, so normally in a short version of a pitch deck, the one that it's just like 10 slides, you wouldn't include the social cause because it's like understood that it have to do with the problem that you're solving. But if you want to keep it, or you want to keep it for your inner documents, you have to be the social cause has to be like super linked with the problem that you're solving. So if you're talking about nutrition, your social cause is to increase the quality of nutrition in that region. If you're talking about unemployment, it's well, the problem is unemployment. My social cause is to decrease unemployment in the region because that causes drugs, delinquency, and crime and things like that. Okay, like
Please, can you come again on the social cause?
Yeah, well, that it have to be linked to your problem. Okay, so if you're talking about nutrition, your social cause is to improve the quality of nutrition in that region. If your problem it's unemployment, you can, well, your social cause is to decrease unemployment because that causes crime and drug problems and things like that. So it always have to be linked, and you don't always have to include that slide in the 10 slide pitch deck, but if you want to keep it in your inner documents, it have to be like super linked. So that's a problem that I had in this version. At the beginning, when you mentioned the problem, you mentioned quality of the foreigner, and then you mentioned in the social cause, you mentioned unemployment. So those two are not connected, but probably they are connected, but it's very hard to see the connection. But if you talk about your problem being nutrition and your social cause being nutrition, you understand it. If your problem is unemployment and your social cause is decreased unemployment, you can see that connection. So that will be the point over there. And again, you can be solving many issues, like many problems. Just make sure that people understand. Competitors, it's good. I will only include the why are you better. So if you're selling sodas and your competition is Pepsi and Coca-Cola, so why are you better than Pepsi and Coca-Cola? It's not just mentioning them, but it's why are you better, okay?
Yeah.
Technology, I like the thing about what you mentioned, that you're planning to use good advanced equipment. The problem with good advanced equipment is that it's not cheap. But it's important that you explain what does that equipment do. So I don't know why it's a better quality or something like that. I remember in the last Tatra Food Summit, we saw a project that was about rice and how they dried rice. And they talk about using a new technology that apparently it dried the rice in a better way. So they had a premium rice. So it's okay. You are using a good equipment, but why it's that helping to your cause, your social cause? That makes a best quality farina, that keeps more the nutrients. I don't know. So just explain why your technology is better. So it's good that it's the most advanced technology, but what's with that, right? So what's the benefit of using the latest technology?
The benefit is to provide a fresh product to the consumers.
Okay, so you have to explain that, and at this point, it's not explained. It's like, well, we will be using the equipment, and it's better than everybody else, but the customer probably won't even notice. Now that you mentioned that it allows you to make a best quality farina, fresher farina, now I can understand why it's important. So you have to mention that. In competitive advantages, well, it's the advantages that you already have. So if you're presenting a pitch deck, it's something about what you already have. So what is your competitive advantages? I don't know, probably you have best relationships with current farmers, with local farmers that will help you. You have more knowledge than anybody else, something like that. So talk about the competitive advantages that you already have. In point 19, when you talk about culture, it's more than the culture or your local culture or your country culture. It's more about your business culture. So, for example, we will make the most important thing in our company will be to be honest with our customers, to provide help at any point, and I don't know, something like that. There are some businesses that are not great businesses that their culture is just to make more money, and it's always to make more money, and that's the point. I would think you don't want a company that does just that, right? That it's not just about the money. We don't hate money. Money is a good thing, but it's not just about money. Okay, so it's about honesty. It's about helping. It's about respecting the employees. It's all that kind of things. It's about train them. It's about giving them jobs. So that's the culture, and you have to talk about it and develop it so that you can share it with your team. Here at point 20, when you talk about the board, you mentioned that you already have a board composed by external people, outside people. So just put some names. If you already have it, or if you're working on having it, put the names of the people that it's in your board. And I don't know, probably like a quick, it's not even a CV, a curriculum or anything, but just put like, I don't know, let's say, Juan Perez, right? Somebody like John Smith, and he's the director of Nestle. So that's why I wanted him in my team, right? So try to put some names in that slide and why they are in your board, right? Then in point number 21, it's the contact information. And well, as I mentioned, probably you want to move it to the first slide.
To the first slide, yeah.
Yeah, so that people have chance. The idea also to move it to the first slide is that many times, I don't know, when you're presenting, for example, in the Thought for Food Challenge or anywhere else, normally the first slide is the one that people see the most time, right? Because it's when they turn on the projector and between teams and things like that. So people have time to write your email. Probably if you put it at last, that is what people normally do at the pitch, is that they put it at last, and people normally are like just switching because the next team is coming. So you have to put it at the beginning. I guess we can move this. You have identified the first ones. At slide 25, well, actually point number 24, that it's cost of goods. You put how much money do you need, right? And what are you planning to use it for? Actually, when to an investor, when you're talking about cost of goods, that's how much does it cost you to make a kilo of something. Well, I don't know what's the presentation. Normally, what are you thinking? What will be the presentation of your product, like 1 kilo bags or how it's normally
50 kilograms.
50? Okay, so that's a bag. So a bag of 50 kilos cost me, I don't know, $50 to do, or $5 or whatever. And that's how much it costs to you to do it. So you have to know that number, right? So in raw materials, in electricity, in all that, in labor, in salaries, that's how much it costs me to do one bag of 50 kilos. That's important for you to take in account. Well, we have traction. In slide, well, in point number 26, when you talk about failures, it's I would recommend you to talk about your own failures. Even though it's sometimes it's tempting to don't mention and try to pretend that one is perfect and have never made a mistake, it's very important for an investor to identify that you have made a mistake. We are all humans. We all have made mistakes. So talk about one mistake, well, one failure that you had, and how you solve it, or at least how you try to solve it or minimize it, right? So I don't know, probably at the beginning we tried with one machine and it didn't work, so we have to make change in that machine. So it's okay to talk about your own failures. It's actually important. So it's okay, I made a mistake here, but I changed it in this way. So for an investor, it's not important that you have made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. but it's more important how you solve them, how you react to them. Because we all know that at some point you will make a mistake, and it's important for you to try to solve it. The next points, I guess it's spot on. Up until here, the marketing plan. I made a note on that. Probably something that you can add to your marketing is to put something that it's called a POP, point of purchase. So if you're selling in a store, probably you can bring like, I don't know, a cardboard, a poster or something that you can put right next to your product so that people understand that why it's what's your product, that it's different to the other products. I don't know, that it's fresher, that gives more nutrition, that you're employing young people, things like that. So try to see at the point of purchase, where whenever somebody buys your product, that they can identify what's the good thing that you have over there. In point, well, the next things were, I don't have any comments in the next things. Up until here in point 36, when you talk about partners, that's the content that you have under, what was the name that you put? Supporters. So the partners can be, for example, the governor, the government. I would even put Thought for Food. We are partners, right? If you participate, you're participating. We are trying to be helpful for you, so we can be partners. We can try to help you, right? So that's it's not like a legal partnership, like stock exchange or anything like that. But there are people or organizations that might be supporting you. So that will be something that I would put. The suppliers, I guess you have it very clear. I would mention in the supplier point, if you already have any connections. For example, you mentioned that the hardest thing to do is to get the raw materials. So say, for example, I don't know, I have a lot of uncles and family that are maize farmers, and they will help me. They will provide me all the maize that I have. So that might be a good idea to mention if you already have any contact or have had any discussion. Then in distribution, I will specify. I understand that you talk about the wholesaler channel. Just mention that, for example, from getting that product from your factory or the place where you're doing it to the stores, are you using your own truck? Are you distributing by, I don't know, bicycle, airplane, things like that? So what will be your distribution plan? Because you have to add that to your costs. In point number 39, when you talk about outcomes, it's okay. I understand completely the thing that you mentioned about the positive outcomes. But I will, for example, when we talk about outcomes and negative outcomes, it's, let's say that your projects function like super great, right? Everything's falling into place, and you're selling your farina next year and everything's going great. What would be the negative impact that you might have with this project? So even though we know that we don't want to have any negative impact in the world, but I don't know, let's say that probably if you're producing, I don't know, 1 million tons every day, and your machine needs electricity or gas or gasoline or something like that, probably you will be polluting a little bit, right? Because of just the use of the machine. So that might be a negative outcome. And it's important to identify the negative outcomes, because that way you can address them and try to solve them, right? So if your machine is polluting the air because of, I don't know, CO2 or something like that, well, maybe you can plan a plan to plant trees or capture that CO2, something like that. If your negative outcome can be, for example, that there are some factories of shoes that they grow a lot. So the negative outcome is that all the local competition might close. because you're doing a great job, and then that's a negative outcome for the community. Well, maybe you can address that and try to hire the people that worked in the other shoe factories. I don't know. So it's important to take in account what will go wrong if everything goes good to you. And if you identify that, you can try to solve it or make a plan on that.
Yeah.
Here in monitoring and evaluation, actually that's a point that have to be very linked to the social cost that you mentioned. So let's say that you're trying to address nutrition. How are you going to measure that your product is actually helping in the nutrition of the community, right? If you're trying to solve your social cause is unemployment, how are you going to measure that you are in fact decreasing unemployment in the region, right? So it's just as easy as that. If you, how are you going to know or measure that you're solving the problem that you want to solve? This is a long slide, a long pitch there. Well, but as I mentioned, it's great that you have enough information. I would remove point 42, that it's the past successes and past failures, because actually that's what we were mentioning about the failures, right? So
yeah,
it's if you want to keep it, just talk about some failure that you might have. Probably you hire a wrong employee. That might be a case. You committed a full production and you were not able to produce it. I don't know. Anything that talks about a failure that you had and how did you solve it. Then in point 43, it's very important. Well, you mentioned the intellectual property. I think that you will have, and I actually have no idea about the laws in Congo, but I would invite you to research a little bit more on how to protect a trademark. So if you're trying to put a brand in your bags or name your company a certain way, how you can protect your trademark, but also how to protect, I don't know, if you're changing the recipe, I don't know, you're adding sugar or not adding sugar and you're adding vitamins or things like that. I think that's important that you try to protect that with a patent or a trademark or something that, according to the laws in Congo at least.
Yeah.
So the very basic thing will be to try to protect a trademark, you know, the brand that you will use.
Yeah.
46. Okay, in 45, I will use the same, when you talk about time frame, I would use the same timeline that we discussed in strategy. So it's like, okay, in 3 months I will be selling, in 3 months more I will be opening my own store or whatever you want to do, but use it in a timeline format. Okay, for me that this point, the 46, the acquisition part was super interesting, because you talk about somebody trying to acquire your company and you didn't liked it, how it went. So I completely understand, and that's something that entrepreneurs encounter all the time, that somebody tries to acquire their company and they don't want the direction that they want to do. So probably in acquisitions, if you're trying to convince an investor, probably an acquisition is something that an investor would like to have, right? Because it's when they get their money back. So I wouldn't close the door to acquisitions, but I will put like a framework, right? I will accept an acquisition from my company if they are good people, if they are planning to keep the region, keep our social cause. So what would it take for somebody to for you to accept that somebody acquired you, okay? So it's important you have like that framework. I don't know, that they don't move the production from Congo to South Africa. So that might be something that you need, like a criteria for accepting or an acquisition.
Okay.
Point 47, well, we already talked about the users. I guess point 48, well, you have very well identified your market in the zone, in the area, and the number of families and how much you can do it. probably you could try to compare it with your competitors. So I don't know, you mentioned that there are companies that are already like buy the farina and sell it wholesale or something like that. So I don't know, how much are they selling? Because I have no reference point. I don't know if selling farina for 40,000 families, that it's the market that you mentioned, if that's a lot, if that's not too much, I have no idea. But if you say, I don't know, just to quote an example, that Nestle is selling farina to 100 million people, okay, now I understand that 40,000 might not be a lot. If you say that Nestle is selling to 2,000 people, 2,000 families, I would say, well, 40,000 seems pretty much impossible. Okay, so just to compare it, to put some numbers, because I actually have no idea. So that will be my suggestions, my specific suggestions on your slides and your pitch deck. As I mentioned, I think it's kind of long. It's a lot of information, but you can like cherry pick from that. I will ask Chelsea to send you it's like a list of points that you already have in your large slides, in your large pitch deck. You already have it, but what points would I recommend? Well, what will Thought for Food recommend you to select in order to have like I would say like a 10 slide top?
10 slide, yeah.
That will be the best thing. My other suggestions that I have that are not related to specific points, it's for me, it will be very important to know, you mentioned 40,000 families, right? And I guess it's a great number to have, and you're very specific on that. But I don't know how much a family buys from you. Okay, so I know it's 40,000 families, but I don't know if 40,000 families represent that in a year, each family will give you $1. So you have $40,000. That it's a lot of money, probably. Or if, I don't know, they buy daily, they buy farina from you, and that's like $5. So at the end of the day of the year, each family is giving you, I don't know, $1,000, and that $1,000 represent for you, I don't know, $40 million. I don't know. So try to put in some place how much a family in average will expend on your product.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good number to have as an investor. It's like, okay, if we can get to 40,000 people and each one will give me $1,000, that represent $40 million. That's a lot of money. I want to invest in that. Okay?
Yeah.
So just, I don't know. I have no idea about the farina market in Congo, but you can run your numbers and see, well, normally a family will eat 1 kilo a day, and 1 kilo, we can sell the 1 kilo for $1. So I don't know. You will have to make numbers, but that's an important number to have. Well, I already mentioned the short deck, and my last point will be something that is super important for investors is to see a track record. You know, okay, to know if you're able to sell things. And I understand that in your project, probably you will need a lot of money, like $35,000, to buy the machine from China, and that's a very, I would say, like a very hard thing to do at the beginning. But it will be easier to get an investor or something to trust in you if you can demonstrate that you can sell things. Because the worst thing that can happen to an investor is that they give you the money and you buy the machine and you forget about the machine, or you try to sell the farina and it turns out that anybody wants the farina, nobody wants them, or something like that. Okay, so it's important for an investor to know that you can sell things, not even your final product, but that you can sell things. That's why I love the thing that you did and that you mentioned about the potatoes, to selling the potatoes. And I would invite you to keep doing that. Of course, keep building your product, your project, and I think that will be amazing. But if you don't wait to have the full amount of money, if you don't wait, it's like, well, I cannot do anything until I have the $35,000. that will be the worst thing that you could do, like not doing anything until you have the $35,000, because we don't know when it will come, right? So and you have to be generating money. So my advice will be, take for example your own example of the potatoes. Find something that you can be selling and sell it and get some profit, and you can put some money in the piggy bank with each sale that you have, and you will have revenue. But the most important thing is that when you approach an investor and it's like, well, I'm not sure if you can sell the thing, it's like, well, I have been selling potatoes, and it can be even closer to what you do. Probably it's not your own brand of farina, but if you say that there are people that buy it like in bulk, well, and they pack it in like in smaller bags, and you can make a profit with that, probably you can do that, and you will understand the market of farina, for example. So that will be my recommendation. And when you approach an investor, it's like, yeah, I have been selling farina bags for 6 months, and now I know every store that sells them, and I know that people like them more, I don't know, when it's sweet than when it's salty, I don't know. So that will be my recommendation, because that will open you a lot of doors with investor. It's very rare that some investor will invest in a company that have not sell anything. So you have to find out as quickly as possible, what can you sell with the resources that you have now. I know that you want a machine, and that will be awesome when you have it, but what can you sell right now without the machine?
That's nice.
Okay, so well, that's all the points that I have. I guess we went like 5 minutes over the time that we had planned. I don't know, do you have any question or anything that I can try to solve?
Actually, these slides, you said that we made a lot of slides, but we followed from Thought for Food. There was an example of slides on how we can make a pitch. So we followed all those rules, and that's why we made a lot of slides. But we can make it in a simple way, and to decrease the number of slides and to emphasize on important things.
Yeah, and I think, as I mentioned, it's important that you have all this information. It never hurts to have too much information, but the thing will be to adapt it. So as I mentioned, I will ask Chelsea from Thought for Food to send you the like the recommendation on the 10 slides. Well, it's 10, 11 around slides that you can do. So since you have this vast amount of information, it's just like picking this and building the slide deck, the 3 slide decks, the 10 slide pitch deck, and I can offer you as soon as you have it, if you want to share it with me, and I can give you some feedback. I will be happy to do it and try to help you with that as well.
Yeah. I had some question, but you already answered it. For instance, you said that it's better to start small in order to attract some founders. As we started with buying and selling potatoes, that might be good for us, and in a such period we can make much money and try to attract then potential investors. That was very interesting, and I'm very happy because it's my first time, and I was a little bit anxious, but I really appreciate. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of things, and this might help me to achieve my personal goals.
Okay, and I'm happy. That's the thing that I intended, and I would invite you to share it with your team. You have the hard task to translate this into French and try to communicate the things, but that's important. That's my thing. Is if you have any knowledge, try to share it. And now you have some knowledge. Let's hope it works for you, and that's my intention. So now you have to share it with your team and even your community. So that will be like the idea, and all the things that you learn from the Digital Labs platform, all the courses or the things that will be the idea.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, well, super happy to help you. You will, I will ask Chelsea to share the template that I mentioned, and also my contact information. So when you have your 10-slide pitch deck, please send it to me, and I can give you some feedback and try to help you in any way possible. I really wish you a good luck. I think that the things that you're doing in your community in Congo, it's amazing. I can see the fire in you. I can see the passion for the product, the passion for the project, your passion for help. So I wish you good luck in the challenge, and hope to see you in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, I really appreciate. Thank you very much.
If you have any question, you will have my email. So just shoot me an email, and I will try to answer it.
Yeah, that will be pretty good.
Okay, it will be my pleasure. And for the rest of the attendees to the call, let me see. Well, you have somebody, Marie just wrote you. It was like, well done, and keep the enthusiasm up. So that's a great thing. It's a cheer from you. So for you, so enjoy it. And for the rest of the attendees, thank you very much. And well, see you soon, and keep logged in, connected in the Digital Labs platform, and find a lot of knowledge, and hope to see you in the next Pitch Tech Lottery, where somebody else will try to help the team. See you around.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.